Hi everybody, it's Denise again with my Scrappy Place, and thanks so much for joining me. I'm going to make another really pretty card today using some of the new stuff out of our newest catalog. I say newest catalog, it's actually the holiday catalog. And let me find it here. This is a watercolor card that I've made. I don't know that it's a holiday catalog after all. Actually, I think it's the regular catalog. Let me look here. I'm telling you the wrong thing, I think. So let's find it here. It is called the Rooted in Nature. I do know that much, so I'm not totally losing my mind. Yeah, it is in the annual catalog, so it's not in the holiday catalog. It's in our annual catalog that comes out in June, and so the Rooted in Nature, I should have pulled that out. It is on page 143 in our annual catalog, and let's see here. This is an awesome one. You can just buy the stamp set, or you can actually purchase it in a bundle, which is what I have. The stamp set is actually 2 pieces in the stamps. We've looked at it in another card that I did earlier, where I used pieces of this in the card. The card was actually, the base was made using alcohol inks, but I decided to actually do a card using this whole stamp set. So you get 16 pieces. The one that we are going to be using today is this tree here, and the "You Are Wonderful" saying in it. They are the red rubber stamps, so you can stick them on your clear blocks, or if you happen to have the Stamparatus, you can use the Stamparatus. Like I said, it does come available as a bundle with the framelits, and the framelits are called Nature's Roots. And like I said, I showed these to you in an earlier one, but there are, how many pieces are there on this one? I'm not real sure off the top of my head. There's 12 pieces. So there are actual cutting dies, which are these, the ones that are open in the middle. And then there are dies that will actually emboss your pieces. And like I said, I showed you on another card, but let me see, I've got one here. Yeah, here's a leaf that I cut earlier for another card I made. And you can see that I cut it out. And if you look real careful, you can see how I also embossed it so it looks like a real leaf. Can you see that? Let's get it up close in the camera there. Whoops, and then I dropped it. So, yeah. So that is what these do. And there is some debate amongst demonstrators as to whether you cut first or you emboss first. And personally, I emboss first and then I cut, and I didn't have any problems. The concern is that if you emboss it first and then you cut it, when it runs back through the big shot, it might flatten down your embossing, but that I did not find that to be the case. So just whichever way works best for you. So let's put this aside and get busy making our card. Today, like I said, it's going to be kind of a watercolor effect. So what we are going to need is, let's put that aside. You can still see it. I've got my Tranquil Tide card base. This is a standard card base that I use for everything. It's an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that I basically cut in half on the long side. So it's 5.5 inches long this way and 4.25 this way. And then I scored it in the middle and folded it. I'm using a piece of soft suede cardstock, and this is cut at 5 1/4 by 4. All the measurements will actually be on my blog. I try and remember it, but it'll be on my blog. And then this is actually a piece of watercolor paper. Now this is the most important thing to be able to get the effect that we're going to get on the watercolor card here. So if you use regular cardstock, it's not going to work. The paper is not right. You're not going to get the same effect. And I'll tell you, you're not ever going to get the same effect on each card you make. It's going to be a little bit different. So you're not going to be able to make this look exactly the same each time. So most important piece here is the watercolor paper, and I think I have this cut at 5 by 3 3/4. Again, all the measurements will be on my blog. And then just, we're going to take a piece of our, I've already done it for the sake of the video. I've taken a piece of our champagne foil paper, and I used another frameless set called Frosted Bouquet, so that you can see that you don't have to just stick with the same set. You can kind of intermingle them. And I use this one to cut out that, running it through the Big Shot. Of course, you know, the Big Shot is an investment, and I would love for you to invest with me, but if you have another die cutting machine, these will work just fine in your other, if you have another die cutting machine. If you have a Sizzix, which is the Big Shot. I mean, Sizzix makes it for us, but I know that there's other ones out there. So, and then we're just going to put a piece of ribbon on the corner. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'll show you how to do the watercoloring. This is one of our Aqua Painters. That's, of course, the other key element to this. And the colors that I'm using today are Soft Suede, Tranquil Tide, and Mint Macaron. I've always pronounced it macaroon, but it's actually spelled macaron. So there's that one. This particular case is how the Stampin' Up! Set, the ink pads are being made now. They rolled this out in June, the new design. But this is the way that they used to be. My stamp sets, some of mine are still perfectly fine, so I'm slowly but surely going to the new set. But that is why the cases look different. There's a long story behind why they redesigned it, and I'm not going to go into that. So this is how they are now. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my stamps, and I want to leave it so that I can get to this. And what I did to get that there, while it was closed, I just took it and I squeezed it together, and it won't break. I mean, I guess it would if you squeezed it really, 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 really hard. And then you get a little puddle of ink right there. So I'm going to set that right there. I'm going to do the same thing with my Tranquil Tide. So I've got a puddle there. And I will tell you that the newer stamp cases are a little bit harder to squeeze, so I kind of really have to do it this way. Or you can take a block, and I sat and I got a little bit there, and this will work. Or you can take an ink, just one of your clear blocks, and smush it in the pad, and then use that as like a palette. But I don't really need to do that for right now. And then get your watercolor paper here. And I'm going to start with the lightest, which is the Mint Macaron, move to Tranquil Tide, and use Soft Suede for the bottom. And I actually found this. This is not my own original idea. At Stampin' Up! We oftentimes copy and share other people's ideas, and I found this on the internet somewhere. But I've also got my diaper here, my rag, whatever. I just want to make sure that my Aqua Painter is clean, even though it looks like it's got a little bit of a green stain. I don't remember what I used this for that stained it. That doesn't typically stain, but I goofed up. But it's clean. Want to make sure that my painter is wet, and I'm just going to take, let's move all these down so you can see. And I want to make a puddle in my lightest ink, and I'm just going to make sure that I'm going to use this side of the paper. Usually the better side is the bumpy side, and I can't tell which one is the bumpy side. I think that's the bumpy side. And I'm just going to start at the top and just start laying some color down. And there are going to be imperfections in the paper, like I said, and that's part of the beauty of it. I just want to make sure that my Aqua Painter is really good and wet, and just squeeze it. And I'm going to come in with the next color. And this is pretty dark, and I should have probably cleaned off my brush in between. But yeah, I didn't. So again, I'm going to really get it good and wet. And if you don't have an Aqua Painter, I mean, you could use a regular paintbrush and do this. It's really so good, and that's the beauty of the watercolor paper. It's designed to do this, so that's why you have to have it, otherwise you're just not going to get the same effect. I'm just cleaning my brush off here on the side, and to pick up the earth tone color, I'm gonna make sure I've got it good and wet. I'm going to pick up a little bit of this soft suede and bring it down here at the bottom. And if I'm shaking the table, I'm trying not to, because my camera is set up. I talk about this all the time. My camera is set up on my table. My camera is also my phone. But anyway, like I said, if you don't have Aqua Painters, you can certainly pick them up in my online store, or you can just use a regular paintbrush. And then there is our base. I think I'm going to get a little bit more and go over here. And it's okay if it, if it kind of looks like it's bleeding a little bit. All right, now, the next thing I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and shut a couple of my stamps up. I'm going to shut that one up, and I'm going to close them all so I don't make a mess. You absolutely have to make sure that your paper is dry before you go on to the next step. And you'll see that it's kind of curling a little bit. For the sake of the video, I'm going to get my heat tool out, and I'm going to blast this really quick. So it might get a little noisy. Turn your volume down, but I am going to take my heat tool, give it a good heat blast, and so we can move on to the next step. Alright. I don't even know if you can hear me or not over this, but I'm getting it good. And yes, this is a contraband heat tool. Yeah, I know. And if your paper starts to curl, you can flip it over and heat it on the other side, and it will help it flatten back out. Okay. I think that's good and dry. I think that's good and dry. So again, I apologize for the loud, but for the sake of the video, there is my base. Okay, so I've got my sky and going into ground, into the dark. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my stamp, and I've already mounted it on my clear block. This is our size I block. And I'm going to take my soft suede, and I want to put my tree stamp on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink this up, and you're going to need a spritzer, and we also have those. I don't know where my Stampin' Up! Spritzer is, but I can tell you that it's got glittery stuff in it, so I'm not going to use it for that. So yes, I'm using another contraband spritzer, but basically you just need a spray bottle. Probably pick this up at Hobby Lobby or Michael's, I don't know. But you're going to need one of these. Like I said, we do sell them. You get two of them, I think for $6. It may not be that much, I don't know. I think they're sold out right now in our store. But you're going to need that. And what we're going to do is I'm going to ink up my stamp like so. And this is kind of the important part. I'm going to move everything else out of the way in order to get it to look good when it's stamped. And I'm going to lay something down to protect my workspace. This is just my dirty old my diaper. And I'm going to take my stamp, my mister, and I'm probably holding this a good 10 to 12 inches away, and I'm going to give it one quick spritz. So it doesn't need to be soaking wet. Oops, I'm going to do it with two. There we go. And bring my card back in, and this is what's going to give the tree even its watercolor look. And I'm just going to stamp it right about there. Okay, stamp down and bring it up, and that gives it a really pretty, like I said, watercolory. I got it a little crooked, but that's okay. I almost dropped it. I almost had a disaster. It gives it a nice watercolor effect. All right, to get my sentiment on here, the one thing about watercolor paper is it does have that bumpy texture. So if you take your stamps and you just stamp straight on there without spritzing it, you might not get a really good impression. And I don't want to spritz this because I want to be able to see my word. So I'm going to bring in my Stamparatus, which I've shown you in another video, is our stamp positioning tool. I'm going to open it up, and because I'm using the red rubber stamp, I don't need the foam pad. This is just a piece of paper that I've cut on top. But I don't need the foam pad because of the red rubber stamps actually have some padding on it. And the instructions tell you exactly how to use this. You can hear my little doggy running around. I don't know what's going on. The cat's probably chasing her. Let's see. So let's get this lined up here. And I'm going to put my magnet down because I don't want this to move around. And these are our magnets that are super, super strong. I just wrapped it with some colored duct tape, so it's easier to pick up because they're really hard to pick up if you don't. And I've got two more stored on the bottom here. I don't know how I came about the third one, but I did. Oh, I ordered a set. That's what it was, because I broke one of them. I let them slam together, and they do break, and it is a known thing that could happen. So Stampin' Up! Is not going to they're not going to reimburse you or replace them for you. All right, I'm making sure that I got my stamp going the right way, and I want it to be right about here. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm just winging it. I hope it's straight. I don't know. We'll lay that down. Our plate does have grids on it, and I'm going to lift it up, and I'm going to take a look and see. And to me, I'm going to take the lid off so you can see. I don't know if you can tell or not just by looking, but can you see the grid lines? You really can't, you can't tell, but it looks to me like I've got it straight. We're gonna go for it. We're gonna go rogue and just hopefully, we're gonna hope for the best. Hope for the best. It's just a card, right? And you can always make more. But basically what I did was I decided where I wanted it to land on my card, laid the stamp down, closed the lid, gave it a press, and picked up the stamp. Now I need to ink the stamp up. And I'm just going to take my ink. Whoa, that was nearly another disaster. It's time for me to take a break. And I'm just going to ink up my stamp. Okay, again, the camera's going to be shaking. And I am going to take this and press it down. And hold it for just a second, and we'll see what we get. Okay, it is nice and straight, but what happens, what I had said would happen has happened. So I want you to see. I'm going to zoom way in and see if you can see this. It didn't quite get a completely, I don't know, can you see that it's a little, it didn't stamp all the way because of the texture of the paper, and that's completely understandable. So let me zoom back out. And this is the nice thing about the Stamparatus, is if you don't get it right the first time, all you have to do is leave that stamp right there, ink it back up, and come back, and it's going to be in the exact same place as it was. And I'm just going to press it down and just hold it for a couple of seconds and give it time for that ink to really transfer to that watercolor paper. Good. And that's much better. I mean, it's still not perfect, and if you really wanted to, you know, if you really want it perfect, you can do it a third time. We'll see what happens. You may not get that perfect stamp because of the texture on the watercolor paper, and if you don't, that's fine. That looks pretty good to me. Alright, let's take this off and move it out of the way so I don't get myself all inky, because it will happen. I've already nearly dropped the stamp pad at least 3 times, so let's close this up before I lay my arm in it. Move this all out of the way. Alright, and you can see that it's stamped pretty stinking good. My lights are, again, can you see that better? There we go. That's better. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is I'm just going to take a piece of ribbon, and this is our classic woven plastic weave ribbon, and this is, what color is this? Whisper White. And let's zoom in a little bit, get the card back up here. I'm just going to take a piece of it, and I don't even know how long this is. I'm just guesstimating, cutting it with my snips, and I'm going to lay it. That's probably a little bit too long, so let's trim it just a little bit. You don't have to do this. I just thought it would be nice to give it a little bit of something. it's not real in your face. Yeah, we'll take that right there. And what I'm going to use to put it down, I think, is I'm going to use some of my fast fuse. This was still on the clearance rack. Hopefully it's there. If not, you could use snail. I don't know that I would use liquid glue because it would come through the ribbon. But I'm going to lay that there and put just a little bit more on top of that ribbon so it will fold back down on top of itself. And of course it's not going to work. There we go. Okay. Stick it down like that. And I'm going to take my little piece that I cut earlier out of the champagne foil. And I am going to find my glue over here. And I'm just going to put a few dabs on it. I'm not going to lay it on my table though, because that'll get on there. And you don't need a whole lot, like I just did and nearly made a mess. But put some on the back here. Lay it on your card however you want it to lay, right about there. That looks pretty good to me. And we have some that is hanging over, so I am just going to turn it over and I'm going to turn it over and just snip that off so that it's even with the card. Okay. And it's still trying to curl up on me, which that's okay. We will make it work. I'm going to take my card base and flip this over and put glue on it. I love the liquid glue, as I've said many, many times before, because it gives me a little bit of extra time for wiggle room in case I don't get it straight on here the first time, which as you can see I didn't, so I can move it. It gives me just a few seconds to make sure that it's lined up nice and neat. Just give that a press. My camera is shaking again. Like I said, my setup works for what I need to do it when I'm actually working, but when I'm taping, I get a little overboard and my camera shakes. Alright, and then the next step is just to put some more glue on the back of this piece. And like so. Close up my glue. Layer this on top of the card. Like so. And I just thought if I could find my spritzer, which of course when I want it, I can't find it. Because it might actually look pretty cool if I were to give it a spray. Here it is. I have taken some of our new shimmer paint. What is it? Let me find it here. Which one have I got? This is something that is new in our holiday catalog. It is our all-purpose ink champagne mist, and it comes in a little bitty bottle like this, and you're going to think, oh my gosh, that's a little bitty. This will last a long time. Apparently they brought this back from whenever, but they've had it before. But anyway, you can see that this particular one is just kind of a silvery, I don't know, it's not gold, it's not silver, it's not white, it's champagne. And what I did was I took one of our Stampin' Misters, and this is what I was talking about earlier, and I have filled this up with alcohol. And I put a couple of drops of this champagne mist in here. And I think what I'm going to do with this particular card is I'm going to give this a spritz with that, just to give it a little bit of shimmer, just because I can. So you make sure you shake it up really, really, really good, because it settles pretty quickly. Move everything out of the way, get my diaper back in here to protect my workspace. Again, this looks disgusting, I know, but alright, and let me zoom out so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Again, I'm shaking, 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 and I am probably holding this, I don't know, I'm probably going to get it all over my iPad too, at least a good 12 inches away. You cannot see it off camera, but I'm going to give it maybe just, whoops, sprayed myself. You might want to test it to make sure you've got a good mist and not a stream, because just like I did. All right, let me give it a couple of squirts. All right, I'm going to hold it way back, and we're just going to see what happens. And there's one squirt, there's two squirts, there's three squirts. And I've got it all over me, but now I'm sparkly. Move this out of the way, and I don't know if you can see it. You probably cannot, but it just gives a little bit of a bling bling. Let's see if we can get the light over here. I always complain about the light, but maybe I can get it to where you can see the shimmer, and it's really kind of pretty. Maybe I shouldn't have had it all mounted up on the card first on the whole base, but it does give it a little bit of shimmer. It makes it look really pretty. You really cannot tell the difference between the two on camera. But as you can see, like I said, it's the same basic card, but the background is different. I mean, you're just not going to get the exact same effect on every card that you make, just because of the technique and the watercoloring. So it's going to be different, a little bit different each time, but I like both of them. So there is a really quick and easy, this is a little bit longer video than I normally do, but way to watercolor using your stamps, using the Rooted in Nature, a little bit of watercolor paper, the Frosted Bouquet framelit set, and makes a really pretty card. You could do it for any kind of situation. So anyway, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up. Give me subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Share my videos with your friends. Like I said, I'm trying to get my subscribers up a little bit. I'm trying to get more videos to you every week. I'm trying to build my business up. We're going to Orlando in November, and I'm really, really excited, and I'd like to have my subscribers up by then. Shop my store, and I will talk to you later. Thanks so much for stopping by. Have a scrappy day. Bye.